Have you seen that old school Arte Suave clip? Remember the old documentaries Arte Suave from back in the day, around him as a young teenager training at Faber Gagel's school in Sao Paulo. And it was so interesting because even then you could see him, he never held position. He always let opponents move. It'd be fun to pull that up maybe at one point.
Interesting.
Like he never, a core principle of his was to allow the opponent to move and spend as much training time as possible in transition. And while most jiu-jitsu guys, as you know, as they're coming up the ranks, egos, they're controlling, they're holding guys.
Yeah.
And,
No, is this him?
Yeah,
He's already a black belt here.
Yeah, this is after he moved to start training with Fabio in Sao Paulo. And it's such a beautiful thing because if you watch his style, he's not in this moment actually.
Now he's fully controlling.
Now he's fully controlling.
But most of the time he's scrambling.
Yeah, he's scrambling.
Did he explain why?
Well, you're maximizing time spent in the in-between. I mean, I think in the martial arts, people are so focused on position when they're learning. Position, but the in-between is where the real virtuosity happens, don't you?
Interesting.
And so he maximized his time in the in-between.
So in stand-up fighting, that would be like footwork and angles. It'd be similar to that. Because the most important thing about any kind of combat sport in terms of striking sports is to be in a better position to land a shot and be in a better position to defend. So if you're fighting southpaw to orthodox, you always want to make sure that if you're southpaw, your foot is on the outside of your opponent's leg. That way your opponent has to kind of cross over to try to hit you, but you're in a position to hit them on the blind side. And the best ever at that is Vasily Lomachenko. Because Lomachenko, when he was young, his father made him stop boxing for 2 years and just study Ukrainian dance.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So for 2 years, he just did Ukrainian dance. And his foot... Have you ever seen him box?
No.
Oh, my God. Pull up Lomachenko highlight. It's all about movement and position with this guy. It's all about when you punch, he's going to make you react this way, and then he's going to go that way, and then he's going to spin sideways, and he'll be behind you. So this is Lomachenko. Like, the way he moves is so different. It's almost like he's got just a radar for like where their punches are coming from, and knows exactly where to put his feet at all times. No matter what they do, he knows what they're going to do. But when you watch his like footwork, it's the most extraordinary thing because his ability to give you all sorts of different reads, like incredible. I mean, he won a world title, I think, in his 4th pro fight. Unbelievable amateur record. But it's just the movement, like he's never right in front of you. He's always off to the side. He's always moving around. He jumps in and out, and it's with perfect precision. Like a lot of times when guys do a lot of footwork and movement, there's points in that transition where they're off balance, where they can't really throw a punch, or their footwork is out of position, or they're leaning too far over on this side. He's never off balance. He's never out of position. He's always slide aside, pop, pop, slide aside, pop, pop. And you never know where the fuck he is. He's a magician. It's fascinating to watch him fight. And very few people have tried to incorporate that. Like you see some of his movement. It's just the way he's able to fool the best fighters in the world and just have a level of movement that they just don't really understand what to do with. They get baffled by it because everything is coming from different angles. It's never I'm charging straight forward at you trying to destroy you. Everything is angles and movement.
Virtuosity is so beautiful to watch.
It's incredible in anything. In anything. When you watch someone who's just unbelievably extraordinary and unique in their whatever their discipline is, it's always fascinating to watch.
One way I relate to the transitional training is through frames. It's like a process of building more frames. We have position, and for some people there'll be no space in between. But if you spend your time playing in the transitional space between, you build up frames like an illusionist. I know you like when you remember you spoke to Darren Brown back in the day.
Yes.
Great illusionists, magicians, mind control guys. They have the ability to see in frames that we don't have the ability to see, and so it seems like magic. It seems like illusion.
Yeah.
When martial artists are called mystical, right? It's because people don't understand what they're doing for the most part, technically, and they have frames where others don't have frames.
So they have more options, it's like having a language and you have an access to a larger vocabulary.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And it's like if you think about you're engaging with an illusionist who has done something, has spent hundreds of hours in a certain specific routine, and you're seeing it for the first time. Mm-hmm. They just have immense knowledge where you have none. They have more frames, and they can play in frames that you don't have, and it seems like something's coming from the sky.
Well, that's where Eddie Bravo had a pretty significant contribution to jiu-jitsu, because he was so creative in some of his attacks and some of the things that he developed, particularly off his back. Like the rubber guard variations, they were so systematic and so, like, if you got good at it, it was surprising to anybody who didn't understand what you were doing, because they didn't know these positions well.
Yeah.
So if you got, like, there's this kid named Jeremiah Vance who's one of Eddie's best guard players, and there's a highlight reel of his submissions off of his back, his rubber guard submissions. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a person that you train with, if you train at a traditional school and you don't understand these positions, you don't know how good someone can be at it, there's times where you don't think you're vulnerable, where you're incredibly vulnerable. Like the difference between a really good guard player in MMA and like Paul Craig, for example, he submitted some of the best two world champions off of his back in the light heavyweight division, Jamal Hill and the current champion Ankalaev. Ankalaev's only defeat is to Paul Craig, because he's just wicked off of his back. So everybody feels comfortable. In MMA, there's only a couple guys like Oliveira. You got to really watch your P's and Q's. There's a few guys that are just wicked off of their back, but no one's like Paul Craig. And so if you're just used to fighting regular guys off of their back, and you get in guard, and you get a little cocky, you extend an arm to try to land a punch, and then all of a sudden his legs are wrapped around your fucking neck. And you're like, oh, Jesus, how did this happen so quick? Because he's just got that technique is just so tightened up. It just locks it up so fast. It's fascinating to watch the difference between like a really good guard player and someone who's just a regular MMA fighter who knows how to do a triangle but really doesn't have like the elaborate setups.
Many ways, that's on a large scale what Royce was doing back in the day.
Sure.
Right? First coming into MMA. No one had any idea what he was doing. They were grabbing his gi. Think they had a huge advantage. But they were entering his terrain. And then when we were training in the early days, there was so much closed-mindedness about leg locks. Mm-hmm. So the leg lock game was outside of the conceptual scheme to so many jiu-jitsu guys.
It was forbidden.
It was forbidden. So they'd get caught. It's like that dogma. It's so interesting competitively finding where someone's dogma is, where their constructs are, their false construct.